got your attention now, don't I?
This is the Black Rifle Coffee Podcast. Prepare to get caffeinated.
Yes, we are.
Oh my gosh.
BRCC podcast.
And we have a special guest today, Logan.
Well, we have a couple technically.
True. One's mic'd up, and then one's just throwing some ink on a forearm. Mr. Dan Cummins, how are you, brother?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
International renowned comedian and handsome motherfucker.
Oh man, I'll take it. I'll take it. You guys had. It's funny, but the lady I was working with yesterday, Mary, she was very much into Logan's look.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you can give Mary my phone number. That's totally okay.
He has piercing blue eyes.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit, she threw that Midwest thing out there, and I was like, I have an in. Here we go.
Is she from the Midwest?
Yeah, she's from Ohio. So we talked about like childhood vacations a lot.
Oh, you're already
really great conversation.
And then I was telling her about the whole like the ethos of you guys here, and she wants to live here. She wants to live in the Black Rifle compound.
Oh, okay. She's
maybe not suggested, but you know. We always kind of make that analogy, not that I'm like, talking us up over here, but a lot of the guys and gals, but I'll speak specifically to the guys, are like former mill around here. They all work out, they're tattooed, they take care of themselves. And sometimes you have people walk in this office, they're like, what is this, like a breeding ground for like alpha males? I'm like, I don't know.
Eugenics program?
Yeah, because everybody's like fucking tattooed and lift weights and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I know. No, I told our VP of marketing, I was like, I'm specifically just hiring like super handsome Marines to fuck with you, right? She's like, you met Brady last night, so he's new on the team. And
you
he's
go like a little ethnic. He's got Indian in him.
Yeah, Brady's like 20% Apache and then like a little bit of German. A little bit of that, like,
it still fits the same, kind of alpha look. I know. I feel. I've been trying to suck in my stomach the whole time I've been here. Just a little bit intimidated.
Oh, and I didn't even introduce our other guest today. It is the man himself, Will _XX on Instagram. You haven't seen his shit. You should check it out.
Yeah,
he's our tattoo artist.
Will's awesome.
Yeah, and Will's the glue to this interaction finally happening.
Yeah.
Your Time Suck podcast is fantastic. I've been listening to that for years, and Will was the one that originally introduced me to it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Will's awesome. I got to meet Will in Salt Lake, and then Will does. I mean, he's so good at tattoos, but he's also. I'm trying to boost his confidence with his art. Like he does these these paintings, but they're kind of like. I'm bad with artistic terminology, but multimedia. Okay, multimedia, but they're so good, so good.
He built me this like mini guitar a long time ago. So it's like a mini guitar, but it's an art piece, and it's got like skulls on it. A couple of the strings are broken, but it's just a piece of art, and that sits in my office every day. Yeah, he made it for me. I'm like, man, I'm a very creative person, but when it comes to stuff that he does, I have no comprehension how to even. I can draw stick figures. I have no clue.
Yeah, I can't do visual stuff where it's like, I feel like I'm fairly creative just with like stories. Like I can write different stories. Like, we have like a horror podcast. I can do like horror stories or comedy stories. But when it comes to visual stuff, I had friends growing up who were really good at drawing. And I've always admired that because I don't have that. Or like my wife, it's like, we just did some like remodel and it looks amazing. But she used to weigh in, have me weigh in on stuff. And I don't know the terms. I don't know how to describe things. She's like, what kind of colors? I don't know what the names of the colors are other than like your basic Crayolas. And I'm like, I'm worthless with this. I know you'll make it look cool.
Easy. If you start talking about crayons right now, I'm going to get all excited and then we're not going to be able to go.
Getting hungry. I feel your pain because I'm remodeling a house right now and my wife is so into it. And I'm like, oh, that's a cool brown. She's like, excuse me?
Yeah.
It is Southern Arabian yellow with a sprint of mint. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking? Okay, it looks good. But it's like the technical terms that are thrown around in this house is like insane.
It is mocha. It's mocha. Okay, you're owner of a coffee company. It's mocha.
And the terms for all the furniture pieces. I'm like, that's a cool table. It's like a table, desk, or I have like three terms. Yeah. And she's like, no, that's and then I can't even remember them right now. That's whatever it is. I'm like,
and there's like weird like adjectives. Yeah. It was like, it's a sit down ottoman or whatever. And I'm like, it's a fucking couch.
Yeah. Sit down ottoman literally paints no picture in my brain.
It always
like my brain just takes those words and there's just a blank. I'm like, what even is that?
It makes me want to fight in the Ottoman Empire. Like, what is a mezzanine? Like, what the fuck is a mezzanine? Like, I want to pick up a spear and go fucking behead somebody.
What is a mezzanine? Is that the front part?
I think it's like a loft type situation. Dave, what the fuck is a mezzanine?
I cannot remember those things.
Isn't it an outdoor patio?
Outdoor patio?
A mezzanine?
I don't know. That's a pergola.
So we're talking about pergola here. We got look up a fucking mezzanine. We got the internet. It's a balcony higher level.
Yeah.
See?
Okay. So
it's a fucking balcony.
So it's kind of like a loft, essentially. Yeah, okay.
That's my wife gets so annoyed with me because like she starts throwing like that, like foyer, whatever, and just my eyes glaze over. And I've gotten better at faking it. Where I'm just like, no, yeah. No, that's great. That's kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm just really trying, like, but in my head, I'm like, when is this gonna be over? When are we gonna move on to something else? And she's gonna be happy and not annoyed. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, because we're at like 4 or 5 months remodeling our house, and it's been a fun process. My wife is super good at it. She's making it look awesome, but the terminology has just kind of been insane. Because there's like little like tile things on these like window cutouts that are not windows, but they're like accents in a wall, and there's specific names for everything. And so, same to your point, I'll be having these conversations, and I'm just like smiling, and like, that would look great as like an accent black color on that. And I have no fucking clue what she's talking about.
We've gone to pictures, which makes me feel like a remedial student or something. Where it's just can you find something online that is like similar to what you want? And I can be like, cool.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of the alternate universe where the women are sitting around somewhere talking about how we like know specific names for all these different types of guns. Like he called this, it's a machine gun and he called it a number. Like these guys are fucking retarded.
Yeah. He said it was like an MP5 or something. It's a sub gun. Well, I guess they went sub gun. Okay, whatever. So how did your career get started, right? Podcast? Was it stand-up comedy kind of?
It was stand-up for a long time. I started doing stand-up back in 2000.
Oh, damn.
And then had a kind of like a quick arc where, you do the open mic or whatever. I started in Spokane, Washington, which is actually just 30 minutes from where I live now in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And then started doing like local bar gigs. And then, it's just kind of like word of mouth. Like the guy who books this bar, recommends you to a guy who books another bar. And it just kind of slowly builds out. And then after 4 years of it kind of building out, I got a manager, did some showcases. And then I did like the late night, Comedy Central, all like the entry level stuff. And that went well for a couple years and got like a half-hour special, hour special. And then it just kind of hit a dead end for me there where, not a total dead end. I was working the road, I was making a living, but it didn't keep progressing. Like, and then kind of with those networks, if they, there's like a new kind of crop of cool kids coming in every year or two. And if you don't bump up to that next level, they move on to the next crop and see if they can get one of them to kind of bump up. And so then I didn't bump up and then stayed there for about, I don't know, I guess 10, 12 years. And then just like some random things, like just fell into more things. I fell into reality TV production for a while.
Like on the production side or?
Yeah, I worked on like Duck Dynasty.
No
and
shit.
Some of these shows is like a consultant producer, but really a writer.
Oh, cool.
So
like,
you were just,
wait, you wrote
like
reality television?
Well, yeah.
It's not scripted.
Wait a minute.
So you made it interesting, essentially.
Huh?
You made it interesting.
Yeah, like what they do on those is like most reality TV for quite a while is it's all about money. Like a lot of those things they learned early on with like the OC and some of those shows that if you set up a bunch of cameras and you do that fly on the wall stuff and you just hang out, with people for months, there's going to have to be so much editing done, like months of, and that's the real cost. Like manpower is the editors the most expensive.
Oh, 100%.
And so they realized like this is just not cost effective. And so they just figured out like if you get a couple pre-producers or, consultant producers to do that, come up with an A story and a B story, just like loose beats. Will's going to go here and there's going to be this dilemma.
Yeah.
And then Sai's going to come in and offer this bad advice. And you just kind of structure it out. That way, when they go out in the field, it just cuts their shoot time down like dramatically. And they can knock an episode out in a week instead of just hanging out for months. But I fell into that for a little while. That was the weirdest way to fall into that. There was a guy, Todd Hurwitz, I'm still friends with him, but I had done a stand-up spot in Amsterdam for, I don't remember what networks, maybe Showtime. But it was like red light comedy, and it was supposed to be, I think, like edgy comics from around the world.
My parents let me go to the red light district when I was 14 years old. Just
really?
Think
totally
about
fun.
that.
Please
continue your story. I just really want to drop that and talk no more about it.
Mind blowing when you're 14, yeah.
Dude, when I was there, like there was parents pushing around strollers through the red light district. Like it's a completely different culture.
They're just not, it's like, whatever, that's sex, not as freaked out by it. Yeah, no, same thing. I went there once in college and had that experience of like, oh my God, what is happening? And then I went back this time and how I met this Todd, why I thought it was funny. No one told me, at least I don't remember anybody telling me that there was a warm-up set we were supposed to do before the taping sets. And so the day of the warm-up sets, I found shrooms and just got blasted.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like wandering around Amsterdam with a buddy, just like out of my mind. And then I ran into like I was like near peak and ran into one of the producers and she's like, let's go do a set. And I'm like, no. Like there's no way. And then
the audience is a jellyfish. What? Man, are you high? Yes.
Yes.
I kept forgetting that I was in another country. Because I had just flown in.
Oh, shit.
And so I'd get freaked out for a second. I'm like, why is everyone talking so weird? And I'm like, oh, that's right. That's not English. Like, But Todd, this guy who was one of the directors, he directed these little like interstitials that they were splicing, like interviews with the comics in between their sets. He just thought that was hilarious because he liked to mess around with stuff. And then that actually got me work with him. That's what led to me working in like reality a little bit, was just getting fucked up and ruining.
And they say drugs mess up your future.
Right.
Come on.
Help me. And so then I just bounced around with that. And then my kids, I got divorced around, oh my God, 2009, 2010.
And 2009.
Huh?
2009. I Wikipedia'd you.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah, it says in 2009 on Wikipedia.
That's right.
I think that's
accurate.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And you have a son and a daughter.
You have a son and a daughter.
You're born May 17th.
Oh my God, you have a good memory. Yes.
You're a steel trap this morning, buddy.
Yeah. Solid.
It's really just blackriflecoffee.com, the greatest coffee mix. Dan, please go ahead.
And so my kids, we'd fly them down like a week a month. I'd go up to like Spokane where my ex was still living. And then my son wanted to come live down in LA. And I didn't want to like split my kids up and do all that. I'd met my wife now. She worked in production doing costume design for like a bunch of TV shows and things. And then we just made a decision like best for the family just to go back to, near Spokane. So the kids would be split half and half between us, even though that meant like her walking away from her career entirely. And then I actually thought, I was approaching 40. I'm like, well, this is it. Like, had a good run. I can't do any more production stuff. Stand up, if you're not selling tickets past the age of 40, like it's not looking good. And so I was like, what am I going to do up there? And I'm like, well, I should at least get a podcast or something and try and keep things going. And I'd done all these failed projects in the past. And they were all based on me listening to my manager, my agent or whatever, like, oh, this is what's trending. This is what's, good. You should do this. You should do this. And I kind of came from that good student mentality of like, well, the teacher says I'm supposed to study this, so I should study this.
Right.
And then I just reached this point. I'm like, why don't I just do exactly like what I want? And just that way.
I fucking love that.
That way, if it wins, it's the best. And if it loses, at least it was exactly. So I just thought, what would I want to listen to? And that's it. That was like the criteria. And that's where Time Suck came out of. I'm just like, I like learning about weird shit, always have. Gone down like dark rabbit holes on the web.
Super dark. I love it. And if you're a vet listening to this show, you will love Time Suck because it is one of the darkest shows that I think is available on podcast.
I believe I've listened to Time Suck while getting tattooed
sure
like you are in Will's studio.
Probably,
Also, we didn't reference that when we said Will's a guest. He's actually tattooing a lovely wolf on Dan's forearm right now.
So
he is keeping his composure while getting stabbed with a fast penetrating needle.
Yeah, fuck hot ones. We do tattoos on this show.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you want to see it, then you maybe should go to YouTube and look up Black Rifle Coffee Podcast and you can watch it.
Yeah.
The dark thing, it's so funny. Like, I'm always amazed. Thank God, I feel like a lot of sponsors, a lot of ours, I don't think they listen to my whole show. And like, they'll just listen to air bites. But it was funny. Like, I had to pull back. I let the darkness like bleed over into sponsors for a while. And we have it taped on the wall in the office, like printed out and like, we're going to get it framed. The funniest email I've ever gotten where it was for Quip toothbrush. And I was like, well, they said like, write it in the voice of the show. And I'm like, okay. And so, and I was like, basically I said something about like, Quip toothbrush, right now is offering some, this, whatever their deal was. And I'm like, and you should really get it because I don't know if you know this, the way like IP addresses work and everything, but the Quip, they know who listens to this show and they know who hears this ad and they can find your home address from that. And if you don't get a Quip toothbrush, they're going to kick your fucking door in. They're going to get a baseball bat and they're going to smash your fucking family's heads in. So get Quip toothbrush or your whole family's going to, like, it's crazy. And then I get this email later and they just pulled the quote, but with like no, and it was like, hey, Dan, the sponsor said they heard this and they don't really feel like it fits their brand. And when you're just reading it out of context, it's just straight up psychopath.
Bro, I fucking wish I could have been a fly in the wall in that boardroom.
Oh, when they're like,
and like the 24-year-old girl was like, okay, guys, so like, we're going to show, we are so excited about working with Dan in the podcast.
Yeah.
And they just hit play and it's like, we're going to fucking bash your head in.
Kill your fucking
like,
family.
Just pins and needles you can hear her drop. Man, that's great. But what I found, at least in our old podcasts and stuff, back in the Drink Bros days, like, I think it makes more sense to like authentically communicate to the customer instead of being like, the best toothbrush I've ever had.
I know.
9 out of 10 dentists were, it's just kind of like, man, like, talk your shit. I think it's fun.
And they stayed on. I mean, they stayed on as a sponsor, but I'm like, but now they have me do like the more generic read and stuff. But yeah, I agree. I agree that it hits more if it's like, appropriate for your audience. And then before I explain the time, it did make me think of, God, there was one, I love this sponsor. They're a great company, Lisa. But I'm like, I wonder if they heard this. They ended up leaving. I would try and I would do the ad and then you can upload the air check. So they hear just like this clip.
Got it.
And then as I kept going, I'm like, you guys, and it was a really dark episode about Joseph Fritzl, this guy who kept his daughter in the basement and had kids with his daughter for 27 years.
Jesus.
Like fucking nasty, just an evil piece of shit. And he's like, he called it his bottom family, his basement family. It was super creepy and dark. But she's down there. I mean, it's fucking horrific. And I had a Lisa mattress spot for that episode. And I was like,
no, you didn't. No, you didn't.
I did.
No, you didn't. I know where this is going. No, you didn't.
Oh, yeah. It was horrible.
Man.
I was like, hey, guys. I'm like, you should never fuck your family. But if you're going to fuck your family, Lisa Mattress has the nicest mattresses to fuck your family. But yeah, pulled back since then.
Incest doesn't feel good unless it's on this mattress.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
Dan.
If you're going to trap your family in the basement for an extended period of time, make sure they're on the best.
God. What a piece of garbage. I hope someone hucked him off a fucking balcony.
I preach a lot of death against those guys on the show, but I think he actually, unfortunately, I think Austria doesn't have a death penalty currently or whatever. So he went to prison and yeah, he didn't get any real justice. He was an evil dude. But so like, times, luckily, it was a crazy thing. When we moved to back to Idaho, my wife went into real estate, left her production crew behind. I thought I was going to dwindle down stand-up. And then luckily the podcast caught fire. Thanks to Pandora, actually, randomly. Pandora, never got the heat that Spotify or whatever did. But for a while, it had a big comedy listening audience and still does, actually. And it was the only platform where you could curate as a listener, what you wanted. If you thumbed up an artist, they're going to show up more in your feed. You create a station.
Right.
And I didn't know that as I thought things were winding down, I was building this audience of a couple 100,000 people on Pandora, found out about it. And then I was able to market. They had this this one little thing I feel like saved my whole career. They let me into a beta program called AMP, Artist Mobile Platform. And you could release a 15-second for free audio message to anyone listening to your station. So a couple 100,000 people, and you could put a link. So I just started being like, hey, here's Time Suck. This week, we're talking about blah, blah, blah. Come up with some 15-second ad. Week 1, doubled my numbers. Week 2,
smokes.
they doubled again. And it did that for 2 months. It just kept growing. And then I was just all about putting as much gas as possible in that fire. And I just started working craziest hours and just gave everything I had to, building it. And then luckily it's gone since then. And now we have a couple
podcasts, right? And then do you use that to supplement your comedy career now? Or you just kind of you're still doing stand-up?
Doing stand-up, but stand-up, what's nice is now a nice bonus. It's stand-up, I have the most freedom where don't have to work any places I don't want to, and then you get to work with whoever you want to work with. I don't get stuck with random comics. I don't have to do any media I don't want to do. It's very different now, very controlled.
Yeah, I imagine from a creative standpoint, that's nice because you get to do it's a fun outlet. You're like, what, I'm gonna do a show and riff some jokes, see how they land and have fun instead of being I gotta pay the bills. I gotta go to Billy Bob's bar and have people huck fucking Miller Lite bottles at me.
It is so now. I'm curious how this next hour will develop because I've always stuck to my guns, creatively, but under pressure with stand-up where it's okay, you got to get these laughs this week because you're not selling that many tickets. And if you don't kill this week, you will not get booked back the next year. And that can make you a little better, but it can also there's a lot of pressure then to compromise.
Right.
You know, and so I love now that it's very much,
It's just fun thing you do on the side
fun
almost.
thing you do and just talk about whatever. And luckily, like I've done, my sense of humor is pretty dark, but luckily I've done dark enough stuff in the past that like, I mean, I don't know how much further I could go.
Yeah, right.
Now, but it's like, but it's nice to know that I can just say whatever.
Well, how did you get on the serial killer stuff? Like, why did you kind of go down that?
Oh,
that
for
avenue?
topic choice?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like, I think just, I mean, like a lot of people, it's just, there's that macabre interest, but I didn't want to only do those, which Time Sucks bounced around.
Yeah.
But, like I was psychology is what I studied in college. And I wanted to be, it's so stupid, like what led me to my career choice. I like Silence of the Lambs, saw that movie and like Jodie Foster's character. I'm like, that seems cool. And then just thought like, maybe I could be some like criminal profiler. And that's what so I had that interest.
Interesting.
And then I realized like, there's about 7 of those fucking people.
Yeah.
And there's about 10,000 people who want that job. So it's like very low odds. But I had that like early on, like I remember doing research papers on like Dahmer and stuff in high school. Just that fascination of like why would someone do that? Like what attracts people to that kind of insane lifestyle, which I think is why, like, a lot of us have those. I think with serial killers, why they're so popular too, like true crime. I've done like noble people, topics, like some great biography, and then like a serial killer, and the serial killers always download more. And my theory on that is you feel better about yourself regardless of how your life is going.
Interesting, yeah.
If you're listening to a story about a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like,
so you're like,
I'm better than him.
I lost my job, but I didn't fuck my family on this sponsored mattress.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but there's
that's solid.
Yeah, if you listen to some like crazy, aspirational thing, I mean, some people are going to love like, oh, that's so cool that he pushed and he fought and he did this. But I think some people are like, man, it's like, I'm barely getting through. I don't want to hear about this person who accomplished more than I've accomplished by 40 by the age of 19. But I can listen to a dirtbag.
Right. Yeah, I think the psychology behind that and like the progression. Like, I don't know if you watched that doc. It was like, Don't Mess with Cats, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was really...
Luke Magnotta.
Yeah. Because I thought that was interesting because you started to see like the psychological like switch of when he did the cat killing video.
Yeah.
And then, their research of going, this guy's going to end up killing a human because the feedback he was getting, given it was hyper negative, but it like illuminated this darkness in his heart.
Yeah.
And he like chased that feeling and then progressed to actually killing someone.
Right.
And they knew he was going to. And it's like very, very bizarre to see why people end up that way. Like they're raising, where they grew up, their family conditions, like is it nature versus nurture? Like there's a lot of components that are very interesting.
I think so too. Just like studying the patterns over and over again and that like moral boundary crossing. And I think it makes sense to me on some level too, because I got really into like theft and destruction for a couple of years when I was growing up.
Okay.
And it was
like you personally doing the actions?
Oh yeah, me personally setting fires, working on bombs, like stealing all kinds of shit, just random acts of vandalism. I was a very angry youth.
Over 10 years ago.
Yeah. We're good on that. But looking back at myself too, it's like I remember when my dad was living in Las Vegas that time, so it was like Riggins, Idaho, 400 people, and then Las Vegas, such a different culture,
right?
And I remember the first time staying in the summer in Las Vegas. This friend of mine like confessed to me that he it's something so small. Like he stole candy from the 7-Eleven. And I remember being like, oh my God. Like I was just so morally like outraged. Like how could you, but why would you steal? Like, don't steal, which, is good. Not supposed to steal. And then it was interesting. I met some new friends a couple years later when I went to live in Las Vegas for a couple years. And the first time I took something, I justified it where like they wouldn't sell it to me. I think it was like a Playboy magazine. Like he was taking stuff, and then I felt like really guilty. I'm like, yeah, but you stole it, and your family's gonna be so disappointed if you got caught and you get in trouble. And then I justified, stealing a few more of those type things, like porn mags or something. And then it went to like, maybe it was alcohol. But it was like there was always this justification. And then pretty soon I flipped this switch where it was like, well, fuck corporate America.
Yeah.
They're just, not paying people enough anyway, so I'm getting back. I mean, it's nonsense, but it worked. And then I just kept justifying it further and further. I have no idea at this point how I started justifying trying to like blow up random cars and stuff. Like we had the anarchist cookbook. I mean, it was getting wild. We like broke into a school, stole their computers, like all these things. Like, and it just got further. But what's crazy looking back is it got easier and easier. And the guilt I felt was less and less and less.
Yeah, interesting.
And then I finally, when I stopped I got I moved back to Idaho. I was stealing from the grocery store. Where actually the joke I do about the banana, the same grocery store, I would steal their stuff. And my mom worked at this grocery store, and I got caught basically, but not. They couldn't quite prove it, but they knew, and I wouldn't admit it. And my mom, she just looked so disgusted with me. And it finally like snapped me back and it sunk in. I'm like, God, why am I such a piece of shit? And I never stole anything since that day. That was like when I was 17. But I think about that with those serial killers and stuff where it's like,
they never had anything to snap them out of it.
A little further, it's a cat, it's this. And they start to just, lose more and more empathy.
Yeah.
And then once they go, human in that way, then they're done.
Yeah, because a lot of times they just evolve to the point where they're just like careless because they're just like, I can't keep going on this. I'm just going to do stupid shit to the point where I get caught.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's an interesting cycle a lot of them go through where it's like they'll be really methodical and careful like the first couple and then, and then like a lot of times there's this moment in their life cycle or whatever where they almost get caught but don't get caught. And instead of that being like a wake-up call, it's more like, oh, I'll never get caught. Yeah, it's like they feel like invulnerable. And then then at the end, like, like Bundy was that crazy example where he just went apeshit down in Florida at the very end and was a very different kind of MO previously where like multiple victims and all that, like clearly some part of him wanted it to end or maybe they get so thinking that they're just above the law or whatever that they can just do whatever they want or something. I don't know. It's this, it's so tough to tell at the end because the prison interviews, it's like, how much can you trust what they say?
Yeah.
They interview these serial killers afterwards and I'm like, yeah, but you're a piece of shit. Like who has no soul left.
Yeah.
Why would I believe anything you say?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there was that one Netflix docuseries on the guy in LA in the early 90s to where he was like doing
Richard Ramirez?
Yeah, the
Night Stalker.
Yeah, the Night Stalker, super evil shit, super randomized killings.
Yeah.
To the point where like he ended up to where he wanted to become famous. Like that was his end goal. And it just felt like this was just a really strange means to get there. Because he like really embraced that as he was going through the core process to where he's just like, now I'm famous and like that was the end goal.
There was some comic might have done this already, but I wanted to do a thing like, I was joking about it a long time ago where like these copycat killers or serial killers who do it for notoriety or like, mass shooters who want like their name outs about how it should be like legal. Like they should be slandered so hard where it's like, cause they get that cool press and then other people see all this attention and they're like, they want the attention too. We should just make the attention way more negative, just like basically like, well, we think that he, shot up this school because he has the tiniest fucking dick. Super tiny dick, and it never gets hard. And I mean, and it's like, and then make up like wild accusations. We're pretty sure he's a pedophile, but like all these things. So they come up with a horrible nickname so that other people are like, well, I don't want that for me.
That's what we should do. Yeah. We should start a serial killer SOP to where it basically becomes a nationwide roast.
Right.
And that's what gets published on the internet, right? Like,
I think let's fucking take it a step farther. I'm dark. Maybe you can subscribe to this. I think when it's like, the roast of Justin Bieber, we put him hit the electric chair and we fucking roast him for an hour and a half before we do a public execution.
Okay.
But the really bad ones, like the really bad ones, like the pedophiles.
Absolutely.
Like
the basement trapper guys.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. I know people always say like, I'm very pro death penalty, which is, I think one of the main points that like, I think most of my audience disagrees with me. But I mean, because they'll bring up like, there's been instances of people falsely being put on, death row. And that's true. But in extreme cases, like I hate those cases where like somebody rapes or molests or whatever, and then they go to jail and then they get out and they do it again and they go back. It's like, there's no fucking way you were innocent both times. There's no way. And it's like there should be extreme cases where I'm all for like making a terrible example. Like, have a crazy roast. Like we can get like Roman, on some of those people. Have some just like crazy gladiator shit.
Bring back the brazen bull.
No, it's just
oh my God. It's that crazy torture where they put in a bull.
No, you do the Wheel of Fortune and it's got the worst like death, like the horse one that rips you in half,
Oh my God.
It's comedy, guys.
Somebody is going to make this into a movie to where that's the process that we do with serial killers.
It's very like, I don't know. What's the movie, like the Purge kind of thing. It's very purgy.
Or we just do this for the Halloween video this year.
That's a great idea.
That's not a bad idea at all. I really like the torture Wheel of Fortune.
The torture Wheel of Fortune. That flows off the tongue. Torture Wheel of Fortune.
That's
Torture Wheel of Fortune.
Torture Wheel of Fortune.
There you go.
Torture Wheel of Fortune.
I wonder what effect that would have. I mean, some people argue that it's like, well, these societal conditions that like it has no effect, like the punishment would have no effect on deterring that. But I wonder if you knew, because I will say for me personally, going back to my own example of, I was very aware that like before I turned the age 18, just having my shitty friends that some of them I had at the time, that if I got caught for certain theft things, that the punishment would not be severe because I had no priors and because I was a juvenile. And if I would have known, at least for me, if I would have known the punishment was much more severe, I truly believe that would have deterred me more. Right. And I wonder on these bigger crimes, if the punishment, like, if you get caught, like, serial child molestation, you get, in front of your family, you get some fucking, what are those machine fuckers with the dildo? Like
Cybex.
That thing fucks you to death.
Dave just told me what that means.
Because really, like you go to death row and then you wait around and then you get lethal injection. Like that's not really a harsh punishment at all.
Well, there's some of these guys, like I just did one that I think it came out this week's episode, but like Mark Twitchell, this Canadian, and it was one murder, but it was like beyond guilty, another attempted murder. And then he's in like, this maximum security, like Canadian prison, but it's so relaxed up there. I want to say it's either every 2 months or every 3 months. If you have good behavior, no matter what your crime was, you can qualify for like a 3-day long weekend conjugal visit where they get to stay in the cell with you. He has cable TV. He killed because he was called the Dexter Killer because he got obsessed with Dexter, wanted to be him. Now he gets to watch Dexter, has a Dexter fucking poster in his cell, watches it on cable TV in his suite, basically. And I'm like, how the fuck is that deterring anybody?
Yeah. How is that a punishment whatsoever?
Right. It's like, it's absurd to me. And I get the rationale with like, we got to give them incentives to, behave well. I'm like, yeah, or you could kill them.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to deal with cable TV and stuff if they're just phones in the back.
Yeah. All this medieval old torture techniques like makes sense all of a sudden, right?
Right. Yeah, in certain cases, I think absolutely.
Yeah, I think you see the arguments on both sides, like, first-time offenders or something, and if they got into like certain aspects of crime, you want to give people another shot at society. So I see both sides, but I think there has to be like, especially now with like, biometrics and a lot of the other science that supports proving people that are absolutely guilty. Hashtag OJ Simpson. Like, I think there's in my personal opinion, which may be very incorrect, but I think like very horrible crimes. There should be, I'm not saying like go like freaking rip this dude's limbs off or something. I mean, I just say that in fantasy land, but the fact that in my opinion, like taxpayers are paying for someone that killed a whole innocent family with a knife, like my taxpayer money's feeding this dude 3 times, like just get this, get rid of his genetics. Yep. I mean, that's my personal opinion and you can criticize it, but.
Yeah, me too. I mean, there's this guy, the one that really got me because it was local, and it's still messy. It's Joseph Duncan. Was this guy, and it's like, he's so fucking brutal. But he had killed a few kids before he made it to Coeur d'Alene. And this guy had this history where he had been like multiple sex offenses, child molestation stuff before, gets out. And then he's road tripping essentially out west. And about 5 miles from my house, he's driving along. He goes on this frontage road next to the freeway, sees 2 little kids playing out in their yard. And it's like, I want them. And then stakes them out, goes back that night, breaks in their house, kills their parents, takes the 2 kids out to Montana, this place off a little rest area where my kids and I have gone a bunch of times, is St. Regis, Montana. Takes the kids out there for a month in the woods, just rapes them, and eventually kills the boy, and then brings the daughter. He's so crazy, he thinks he's going to bring the daughter and like have it be his own daughter now. He's been raping her for a month. Thank God they caught him in this Denny's, just fucking 2 freeway exits from where my little studio is now, and put him in prison. And then in prison, they let him have a blog where he would blog about how innocent he, how like,
what?
He would write on his post on his blog about how people should feel sorry for pedophiles because they're the real victims because they can't help it and all this stuff. And I would leave comments about like, I fucking can't wait till you're dead. Just like on his blog.
Got it.
But I'm like, why is he allowed to? And luckily he did die of a brain tumor recently, so at least it was painful. But it's like, in those instances, I would support basically any form of execution. On an individual like that, I'm like, whatever the family wants. You know? If the family wants to fucking tear him apart with horses, okay. All right, I'll sign off on it. It's like in those instances, it's just like, Jesus, man, it's I don't know.
Have you ever interviewed like a or not sibling, or I guess a sibling or offspring of like a serial killer. Because I feel that would be fucking crazy for someone like your father was a serial killer. Like, I know that a couple of people have done that, but I don't know how open certain individuals would want to be to like associate themselves with that genetic line. But
I haven't done that. We haven't done really too many interviews, but that topic has come up as a possible, like the children of. Yeah. And there has been some books. I know that Dennis Rader, the BTK guy out in Wichita, his daughter, I haven't read it, but I think I'm 99% sure it was his daughter that wrote a book about all that because, some of those people feel so bad where, I mean, he went on for a long time and so completely raised her and was like an awesome dad, like very involved in church and softball, like all those things.
He was a total family man, right?
Total family man, like had a compartmentalized and had two very different lives. And then for her to realize that like that whole time, like what he had done to other families, like that's gotta be the biggest just mind fuck. I mean, man, I don't know if you'd ever fully recover from that.
No, I mean the trust issues associated with that. Like,
you would question everything after that.
Semi-suspect though.
Oh yeah, Will's joking about. I've had a joke. My dad, he's been a good sport about it actually, but there's like a running joke for whatever reason, time stuck recently where it's like my dad may be a serial killer and like just because I don't know where he was like in certain dates. So it's like, well, maybe I don't know where he was. He was near this crime at this time.
Shit. I haven't seen my dad in like 3 days.
Who knows what he's been doing?
Fuck, man. He's
dad watch.
Maybe he's the new Bergheim killer, dude. He's out there in, Texas Hill Country.
I joked about my dad too, because my dad's so old school where I feel so much weaker than like my dad and his generation and his brothers. But it's like, my dad would have done great in like a wild, wild west, especially in like his 20s and 30s. If he like a gunslinger in some Western like lawless town, my dad would have thrived. Like he's a scrappy guy.
Was that you? I think you did a bit a while back on your father wanting to go back to like the 1800s.
Oh yeah, that's me.
Like,
yeah,
I love that because I hear people say that shit all the time, and it's just like, oh, I should have been born in like the 1830s, and you're like, well, nah,
no medicine.
Like you get pneumonia, you're dead.
Yeah.
We should think science a little bit. That's just
I think he'd roll the dice. I think the
send it.
Yep. No medicine and stuff. He'd be like, yeah, but I get to, like to handle things the way I want to handle them. Yeah. Be like, okay. Yeah. He'd do a lot better than me. He's a very, very good shot. Like now he's like later in life, he's retired. He's thinking about getting into like target shooting, like competitions.
Oh, nice.
He's a dead eye on that. And then like when he was younger, I joked about it on stage last night, but like not everybody has seen their father beat up another grown man. But like, I remember watching that as a kid and be like, okay, this is weird.
Kind of proud of you, Dad.
I know, but also like, Dad's kind of a superhero.
Yeah.
That's great. I don't know what era I would go because I kind of like air conditioning.
Yes. I'm soft. I like all this stuff. Vehicles
with airbags. Like that's something we don't actively think about. I have a 72 Chevy, no airbags. You crash that thing, your face is, making a nice imprint on the fucking steering wheel. But
isn't that crazy how like a lot of those old cars too didn't, at least when they came out, didn't even have seatbelts?
No.
And I mean, even when I was a kid, and it's so weird to think about now, but it was just the norm, growing up in Idaho, very normal to throw all the kids in the back of a truck.
Yeah.
And just barrel down a 2-lane highway at like 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And just
like the northern Idaho woods where like the switchbacks.
Oh yeah.
Like you're on dirt roads and like at any moment you could go caressing off the ravine and just die.
There was a guy in my town who, the generation before me, like I just remember as a kid being like, hey, such a small town, like you see somebody who's not quite the same as everybody else, you just have questions. And I think he must have been the first person I saw who had like brain damage. And so he just acted different. And I'm like, talking to my grandpa, like, what's going on with that guy? And he had fallen, just as a kid, teenager, fallen off the back of a truck and smacked his head and was never the same. And even still, there was like, get in the back of the truck. That guy fell off the back of the truck and his brain's damaged. Now get in the back of the truck. We're going up in the woods.
I mean, what'd you do though? If you had like just a bench seat and it fit maybe 3 people and you had a family of 6, you're throwing kids in the back.
Yeah, there's nowhere else for him to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But isn't that the thing back then? It's like you had like 8 kids because like 2 of them were probably going to just, be naturally selected or something. That's a terrible way of putting it. But I mean, it's like literally to keep your family line and to work the farms, you had to have multiple kids and then you run the risk and liability of mama dying because having kids back then wasn't that safe.
Yeah, I only have one sibling, and my mom only has one. My dad has 5. There were 6 brothers at one point. But my grandpa was raised on a farm, and that was their rationale. Was 13 of them.
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's impressive.
I know that just one vagina can kick out
13?
13 kids.
Dude, that's when you look at your wife and you're like, all right, time for 13. She's like, my insides. Please, God, help. They don't have this thing called a mommy makeover yet, but in 200 years, it's going to fucking kick ass.
God, kid 13. I imagine her just like digging her uterus out of the closet or something. Dusting off.
Here we go again.
Time for number 12.
Right, exactly.
Golly. Different times.
I think I would have went like right after the Civil War, like shit would have been wild because it would have been in complete dismay and like that movement west.
Yeah.
Like 1870, like there was no law whatsoever and anything would have went.
It is weird to think about that time. Yeah.
Like, it's literally the Wild West.
Yeah.
I think it's such a separation of like societal thinking when you think about contemporary America per se and like all the things that we have. And just even if you go back, let's just say 200 years, like you could literally get away murdering anybody.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Like people were just getting shot all the time. And it was like a thing. Instead of fist fighting, it's like, let's duel it out with a 6-shooter. I mean, the time's a little fucked up right now, but like as far as.
Oh, shit. But they were still doing the duels. I mean, because they would be illegal in certain towns, but not really enforced. And a lot of towns didn't have a sheriff and stuff, but especially Southern culture.
Yeah.
Like Doc Holliday and some of those guys coming out of there. I mean, that was a whole thing, like an honor duel. And I love what they would like duel over, like to the death, potentially.
Yeah.
It would be like, you called my mother a miscreant.
Yeah.
We must, tomorrow at noon.
Yeah. I am not a squire. Tomorrow at noon, I will see you. As the sun shades across the town clock, I will raise my 6-shooter and battle to the death.
It's so crazy.
But now we're scared about microaggressions in 2021. Okay.
I always think about that when people complain about like, yes, there's certain things that are frustrating now, like cancel culture, conspiracy culture, like all these things is like frustrating, but I'm like still way better than things used to be. Like that argument of like, well, things are going to shit. No, things were shit. Comparatively. Like it does keep getting better. Yeah.
I mean, you imagine if we existed in like the 1870s and we were all citizens of this town, and there was a serial killer, we would have been sitting around having this exact conversation, trying to figure out how to deal with the serial killer.
Right.
Just throwing ideas at the wall, Yeah,
it's crazy.
Hey, let's tie him to the horse and like that creek. That creek's super rocky. That one.
Yep.
Frederick stubbed his toe in. Like, let's just drag him through that. Let's see what happens. Let's do a dozen of those and then go from there. Does that go good?
Let's tell Dan our witch bit.
Did you know with Black Rifle Coffee's Coffee Club subscription, you can get fresh coffee shipped to you every month? What? You don't even have to go to the store. Whoa. You don't even have to leave your bed. What? Wow. How did you get in here?
You might want to go ahead and join the Black Rifle Coffee Club subscription before one of these guys shows up at your place.
The witch bit?
Oh God, yeah.
So we have this video, and maybe you can take this and use it in comedy, but we were thinking about doing, fuck it, I'll just say it, but like a commercial, and I don't care if I give it away.
We're gonna do it.
We're gonna do it.
Okay.
Who cares?
But you take it to like old school times. I don't know what era necessarily.
I feel
when
like
do they
it's
throw witches off like cliffs?
Yeah, like 1600s, 1700s.
I think 1600s, and maybe a little bit early 1700s. Yeah, when they're still doing witch trials. Yeah.
So it's just like innocent kind of poor lady. She's like not the town whore. She's maybe like hooked up with 2 guys.
Right.
But they've convinced the town that she's a witch and they got her tied up to the stake and they're like, burn the witch. And then as it starts progressing, the townmen start blaming her for everything. Like, she made me fuck Bob. And then like, burn the witch. And they all start admitting like every transgression that they've done. And it just gets darker and darker and darker. And like, by the time the witch is like, yeah, fucking kill me. You guys are crazy, dude.
I've been having sex with this goat for over a year. Burn the witch.
And the townsmen are like, burn the witch.
Yeah, exactly. They're a little bit more like, okay,
that was a weird one. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I masturbate to frogs. The witch made me do it. What the fuck, Jake? I don't think Jake's a name back here, but that's okay. Yeah.
That burned the witch. Oh my God. That reminded me of like the Salem witch trials. That was one of the most memorable historical things I came across, like doing like research for various historical events. It was called spectral something, like spectral witness or something. But during those Salem witch trials, they would have somebody like give testimony about so-and-so being a witch. And part of the evidence was they had a dream where that person showed up in their dream and was not good. And they're like, well, that's a witch. Like you could just like be accused of showing up in somebody's dream and that would be enough to get you hanged.
Yeah.
This is a prime example how things have gotten better, sir.
Yes, exactly.
Yo, I had a dream that you were kind of bad. Burn this bitch. Yeah, kill her. She's a witch.
Right?
What the fuck?
What the fuck?
Come on, man.
And if we go further back in time, it's just a whole bunch of people say, God wills it.
Oh my God.
God wills it.
That's so crazy to me that if you go back to like, the Catholic Church, for the most part in like medieval Europe, when we talk about like all these horrible things maybe somebody should do to a serial killer, they did like the worst things to people who might be heretics.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not sure that you agree with the interpretation of this verse the way that we agree with it, so we're going to rip your fucking fingers off.
And basic scientific advancements, like calling the earth not flat was like, okay, time to rip your hands off kind of shit,
Yeah.
There's a thing called a sun and a star, and I think we kind of like orbit around it. Kill that motherfucker.
Isn't that a crazy thought that it's like we did, I detached myself from those moments and it almost seems like a movie, but that was somebody's real life. Where they're like, hey, I made this cool discovery. And I think this is how the planets align. They're like, okay, we'll talk to you about it in a second. Hey, grab him and throw him in the cell.
Exactly.
And then they're just ripping him apart. Like, I just discovered some stuff.
Yeah. Well, you imagine if the flat earthers ran society, right? And you're like, he's doing mathematics?
Mm-hmm.
Death, kill him.
It's a great show on that it freaked my wife out. She got like too into it, but Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
On Hulu, and it's just about Gilead, this nation. It's about like very strict literalist, kind of fundamentalist Old Testament interpretation, of like eye for an eye, but like really, and then just kind of like morphing and twisting scripture to like fit their agenda. But it becomes like this theocracy where that's how they're running things, and it just gets crazier and crazier as time goes on because the rules get stricter.
Is this nonfiction or fiction?
It's fiction, but it's like if America transitioned to this. And just, it seems too real, but because it is based on like, medieval Europe when people actually did stuff like that where, you have an affair or whatever. No, there's one woman, she read from a book. So the first punishment for reading from a book was you get one of your fingers cut off. And then that kind of stuff. And
So we had this concept that never came to fruition. It was, we kind of called it the ISIS button, but the whole concept was that like we would take like Americans.
The American Appreciation Button.
American Appreciation Button. Okay. But we would take Americans who are bitching about the current society and then slap them back to
teleport them to like Syria.
What can you?
Yes.
And be like, okay, this is weird. I'm going to get in the car. Women do not drive. And you're like, oh,
right.
Fuck.
Right.
But you take like, could you imagine like, so you're like, oh, let's go visit San Francisco, for example.
Right.
But it was like Vlad the Impaler times. And as you're driving into the city, you just see thousands upon thousands of people impaled on spikes. And you're like, oh, this looks like a super welcoming place. Like that's what it was like to exist in the 13 and 1400s.
Yeah. And that is, and I love that, like the button concept and just that concept of like, like Syria, you said, in some of these places where I think people forget who just don't study enough of like what's going on in other countries or whatever, like how good we have it now compared to how many other people have it now.
Yeah.
Like that's such a crazy thing. Like, well, like Afghanistan and like the Taliban, going in there, they're already just, gunning down people for like, I like the way it was before. That person, it's like, that's crazy that happened like yesterday.
Yeah.
Literally like yesterday. Yeah, we did. Our last show was on that, so we won't touch too much. But no, it's totally fine. I mean, 100%. And I think people they have such a large moral compass until it involves them to actually do work. And they're like, oh, blind eye. Oh, I got to check my TikTok or Twitter. What's happening over there? Whatever. It's sad. It's a tragedy. But I think people don't realize how good they have it, especially when you grow up in like this sanctuary of a safety bubble that we've created on like generation after generation of sacrifice that has provided the opportunity to be a free thinker, have opinions and challenge opinions. And then when you start to see it the other way, where people are like, you think my way or you're wrong, you're like, no, that's the antithesis of what civil liberty should mean. It should mean that we should challenge each other's thoughts for the progression of our society.
Yeah.
And like, do whatever the fuck you want as long as it doesn't fuck with me kind of thing. And
yeah,
it's wild because people don't have that. They grew up in gray areas with law and all these things that you just like for instance, like even getting in your vehicle, a motorized vehicle that fucking took how many hundreds of years to get to where it's at today, to drive to a convenience store to get a bottled water that's fresh, that you know you're not going to get dysentery from, and grab a bag of chips. Like the basic fundamentals of our existence that we do on a day-to-day basis. I don't think a lot of people understand like how fucking fortunate and also how quick that stuff goes away. Because you look at like COVID in 2020, like the amount of people that freaked the fuck out and were like, I have no food, I have no options. Like the infrastructure in this fucking world is so fragile. And people just don't want to admit that. And the second you're like, yeah, I got like deer meat and extra water to survive for like 3 months. They're like, you're a prepper. I'm like, well, I think you're a fucking idiot. So let's have a conversation, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
it's wild.
It got cold in Texas this winter.
Oh yeah, you guys had all those pipes burst.
Yeah, it just got cold.
We had a lot of people
It just got cold.
Yeah.
And like it went to shit.
Enough.
It went to shit. Almost worse than it did during COVID, to where like you go into the grocery store, like there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. Just because we got ice and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not like picking on people, but like most dudes my age don't even know how to like start a fire from nothing.
Right.
Or like filter water. You know, like here's some river water. How are you going to drink it? It's kind of scary how much I think we rely as a society on society.
Right. And that thing about, just people like so soft and like the things they complain about because they don't understand how good they have it and they don't understand what life would be like if they didn't have that thing. I thought about that with when there was the calls to defund the police. And I do understand that a lot of people were like, no, we don't want to get rid of the police. We want to like restructure. But some people definitely were like, we want to get rid of them.
Yeah, and they're fucking idiots.
They're fucking idiots. And I remember thinking like, you should have this option. If you really believe that, well, okay, you get to sign up for something where you don't have to pay a little bit of taxes to support the police. But then also, you don't ever get to call 911 fucking ever. Like someone is just lighting up your house. Like you call them up, they see that you're on that list. And they're like, good luck.
No, I mean, there was a couple of videos and I'm just going to talk some shit. It's like people holding defund the police.
Yeah.
There's riots and stuff. Like they're holding the signs.
Yeah.
They get like fucked up by like a Molotov cocktail hits them in the face or something.
And
they're like,
them.
call the police. And they're holding a defund the police sign. I'm like, oh my God. Because I look at it in like the same terms of business, right?
Yeah.
You know, compensation influences people to perform and performance-based criteria. So you can't pay someone $2 an hour and expect them to be an exceptional employee. You have to be compensated for your time and then their professional development, or you're going to get your money's worth.
Right.
It's the same thing with any like consumer product good. Like you get what you pay for within reason. And that's the same thing with the police. If anything, they need to be funded more so we can get better training and that like, whatever. I won't even go on my rant, defund the police. It's the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life.
There is a weird thing that we've had it so good for so long now, a couple generations, most people, where it's like people have lost logic and they don't understand where it comes. I think about that with like the vaccination stuff where people are like, well, why do I have to get this? We don't, there was this weird thing. It's like basically because people have been vaccinated a century ago with like polio and all these kind of things, we had it so good for so long that people forgot why we needed those. How they like allowed us to be, healthy. And there's that thought in different ways. I saw that with the Capitol insurrection too. There was some people like, oh my God, they're shooting at us like the cops. And it's like, well, yeah, you're trying to mount an insurrection. It's like it was a video game to them. Right. It's like they thought they should be able to do whatever we want. And a lot of people with rioters and stuff and different protests, like, oh, we should be able to do whatever we want. And then, oh my God, the police are shooting at us. Yeah, because you're fucking attacking them. It's like people have lost, they've been in their, suburban life for so long or whatever, or just like, getting really tough online that they forget that doesn't translate to the real world. There is a weird like logic disconnect with a lot of people like recently.
There really is. Like they're not thinking through second, third order effects.
Yeah.
Like, there was a video that was making the rounds not too long ago, and it was this anarchist bookstore that did a video, and they were complaining about how people were coming into their store and stealing the books.
At the anarchist bookstore?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, motherfucker, that's exactly what that is. Is that real?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That kills me when people claim to be like a real like anarchist. It's like, okay, good luck with that.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Buy a dictionary and look up anarchist.
Right.
You anarchist.
Right. I made the argument, I think, on some episodes too, but that thing, it's like, no, you're not. It's like, yeah, that's a great thing. Maybe if you're, it goes great for you for like a week or something, if you're able to take, I guess, your neighbor's stuff or whatever, but eventually you're going to run up against somebody tougher than you.
Yeah.
And it's going to end badly for you. And it's 100%. Just like, but people, they don't think, they just like, oh, I liked Fight Club.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a fucking movie.
Well, yeah, it's a
so
fantasy.
Cool.
They don't know the consequences of reality.
Yeah. It's like
weird segue. Why the wolf?
Oh, the wolf. Well, okay. So I got initially this Idaho tattoo, and it was like my least thought out one. It was like a gift from my mother-in-law, and we just like went. I never do that. Just go to the tattoo shop and just get something randomly. I was like, oh, that's so nice of her. And then I just moved back. I'm like, okay, I'll get this cool Idaho one. But then my wife calls it my basic white bitch tattoo.
Oh, okay.
And so I wanted to get something more meaningful. And then wolves, there's a cool animal, just like the way they like hunt alone. I've been more of a loner in some ways, as far as just how like with stand-up comedy, it's by yourself. Time suck, by yourself. I have that element. And then in Idaho, they just were a really divisive animal growing up. You had like people strongly supporting them. You had ranchers just like they were the worst thing ever.
Right.
And I don't know, just kind of like a magical animal. And I don't know, for lack of a better phrase, I just think they're really cool.
Logan has a wonderful wolf tattoo.
I showed him last night.
Yeah. Oh,
you guys it's
were
awesome.
Shirtless.
Oh yeah.
That's how Mary became such a fan.
Mm.
Logan lifted up,
showed his wolf, and she started howling.
That would be awesome. He just can go into a bar and just like lift up the shirt and just like if that's how you find women, just a couple women in the back.
Hey girl, want to join my Wolfpack? Like, God, you need some help on your pickup game.
Yeah, but why do you like him? You have such a big one.
Wolf.
Whoa.
Whoa. I thought Mary was interested, not you. Okay.
With a large wolf tattoo.
It's a little deep and cerebral, but I just wanted something that like big and bold that I look at every day that's like, go fucking attack life. Like consume it to its fucking utmost. And like when I wake up in the morning, I look in the mirror, like it's hard to be passive about trying to go through life. It's like, no, go fucking eat, motherfucker. Like go out there and get it.
I should get a bear face tattoo then, right?
Yeah.
That way when I look at myself, I'm like.
Spirit bros.
Yeah.
I'm going to use your explanation going forward. You're going to hear me in another podcast. You're like, so why did you get the wolf tattoo? I just want to fucking attack.
Yeah.
I just want to like, hey, that's what I said.
Just want to attack life, man. Yeah.
He took it.
Dude, I have to ask you a question because you did a show on psychedelics.
Yeah.
And we're a few of us over here kind of delve into that space a little bit, but
yeah.
Super interesting episode from my perspective, listening to that and like why you wanted to do that and how that whole process unfolded for you.
Yeah. I mean, there's like, research, well, with psilocybin mushrooms, at least, too, where they show like the effects, so much of the drug stuff. I mean, I don't want to go like a crazy drug rant, but I hate like drug policy.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's such a waste of resources. And I think like punish the crimes that people commit while they're on drugs. Don't punish the drug usage itself. And there's like other countries that have decriminalized things, and there's not crazy spikes in crimes. It's actually like gone the other way.
Yeah.
Amsterdam, Portugal,
yep.
Has basically decriminalized everything, and there's been enough data on it now because it's been over 20 years. Where, there's like all these benefits of like, some kids are messing around and one of them ODs. A lot of times here, they're afraid to tell the EMTs what actually is going on because they don't want to get in trouble. So they have to do this guessing game to try to figure out what's going on. And a lot of times that guessing game can cost somebody their life.
Yeah.
And it's like, if they were able to be honest about it, it would save a lot of lives. And there's all these other things. And like some of them, it's like, with weed and shrooms and stuff. It's just so hypocritical to me that alcohol is legal, and I like alcohol. It's like I'm a whiskey drinker. I love old fashions. I have, 4 or 5 nights a week, at least like a nightcap or something. So I do no problem, but it's worse. It is a more powerful drug and more destructive drugs in many ways than, marijuana. And so I just, looking into the history of why those things became illegal, it was never about safety and protection.
No. I think I'm not completely sold on like the legalized all drug things. I think I'd have to look at that and a society. But yeah, like on the weed side and like shroom side, like that's the thing I always say that too. It's like no one ever fucking like went and fuck someone up on marijuana really because the drug, they sat and ate Doritos. And if you look back historically why like specifically marijuana is legal, it's crazy. And then big pharma, you have the tobacco industry, the alcohol industry fighting as hard as they can because all they see is dollar signs, and those dollar signs are correlated to a lot of health issues. I mean, especially we've talked about it in the veteran community. I mean, a lot of people self-medicate. I was one of them for a long time where I was like fucking pretty bad alcoholic back in the day. And it's because like that was, you had to like get out of your own mind sometimes. And then, you know, marijuana is so like bad. You've been conditioned, right? In your head to believe that, whether you're like, the only thing I want to fucking do is sleep. Like, and then what's the outlet, you know, the VA or whatever, like, hey, take all this Ambien or take these fucking antidepressants and changing like physiologically who you are and neurologically as well. And I just like, fuck, man, there has to be better resources for people that just want to like fix a portion of their life. And thank God, I think some of this section with medical marijuana and some of the things we're doing in the veteran community of like individual treatment, I think we're helping a lot of people find their individual solution to their problem rather than blanket treating a lot of people. It's like, here's some antidepressants. You're like, dude, I just can't fucking sleep. Like, I don't need antidepressants. Like, no, it's because you're depressed. Like, you can't, because we sat at a desk and you told me that. I fucking hate that section of.
And marijuana specifically, a lot of those, it was like a lot of racial legislation too that made it illegal, where it was like, you know, fear of, with marijuana specifically, it was becoming popular in like the Hispanic community. And there was just, you know, a lot of like, back in the day, like scared white people being like, they're gonna, you know, we can't let these, you know.
Fucking scared white people, man. Yeah, it was also really tied to the paper industry, like back in the 30s and 40s. Yeah, so.
With the hemp stuff?
Hemp was like crushing timber paper. And so one of their ploys to get everybody to turn away from was to criminalize marijuana so that people wouldn't be able to produce hemp anymore. Right. Hence, paper can grow the way that the industrialization wanted it to.
Ban the devil's lettuce, Logan.
Yeah, oh my God, what was that propaganda film? Reefer Madness. Thank you, Will. Reefer Madness. It's they made these crazy propaganda films like when they were like making marijuana legal. And it is unintentionally hilarious now. But basically, Reefer Madness is just like, you know, like these teenagers, it's like the really dramatic voiceover, you know, like they were good kids and then they found the devil's lettuce. And then it just cuts to all this like drama where like they're fucking each other and like, and
no, that was the narrative. Like me growing up, do you remember, because you're a little older than me, barely, but like the DARE program and stuff where it was just like, marijuana is a gateway drug. Like if you smoke it, you're going to be with a needle in your arm getting butt fucked by 7 people. You're like, oh my God. Like, I just wanted to listen to Led Zeppelin, dude. Fuck, man. I wanted a cheeseburger and to listen to Led Zeppelin. Maybe, you know, that's it.
And shrooms, there's so much with, you know, hallucinogens in general, there's so much misinformation out there where it's like, shrooms is a really mild hallucinogen. I mean, if you take enough of it, you know, it's going to be, but you're not going to be seeing like a dragon come off the wall and come after you or anything. It's just, honestly, it's like when I've done shrooms, it just kind of resets me and just like, it's almost like a spiritual reset. Like I'm not a religious person or whatever, but it just makes me like, the last time I did it, I just hung out in the yard between the hammock and the hot tub for probably 4 hours listening to Tool's most recent album.
That's a solid session right there.
And just recalibrated my brain and I just remember thinking about like, oh, the shit that you worry about doesn't matter. Yep. And, you know, we're all going to die and that's fine, you know, and part of nature. But like, it was all like these really peaceful thoughts. And it did make me like, I'm not a real anxious person, but I can get a little tightly wound. And it just made me just chill out. The chill out effect probably lasted for a few weeks.
I've never tried hallucinogenics, so I'm
I mean,
I have.
Yeah. and I would do, I mean, if they were more accessible, I would definitely like mess around, like microdose and stuff. Like I would totally microdose with LSD more. It's like, I've never microdosed. I've done a massive dose. And then like, that was very powerful hallucinations. But like, I just think there's so much misinformation about like, you're going to end up in a mental institution. It's like, no, not if you fucking do it right. So much of that stuff is like, if you do it right.
Yeah,
like,
and
that's drugs as a whole. Alcohol is if you do it right.
Yep, I mean,
for fuck's sake.
From like a scientific perspective, the psilocybin stuff, like psilocin is the active component in that, and psilocin is nature's version of serotonin. So it's like your happy drug. So it's like nature's happy drug. So it refires your brain in these new ways. And like, that's the largest commentary around it is what you exactly just said. It was like, it's this reset to where you're like, you feel happy and you like understand what's important. Like Why is that a bad thing?
Right,
It doesn't sound
exactly.
like a fucking bad thing at all.
Yeah. Yeah, because I get into these loops of I'll start to fixate on things that do not matter. And I'm aware that I'm doing that, but I'll get like angry about the advertising company was supposed to send me this spreadsheet and the breakdown was wrong. And, they messed it up last month too. And then but it doesn't affect my life at all. But I'll fixate on little things. I'm like, why the fuck aren't they doing their jobs? And what kind of idiot is working in the finance department? Why can't they send me the right thing? And I'm waiting 2 days for this email that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I'll have like 15 of those things in my head. And life will be fine. I'm healthy, doing fine. The kids are fine. Everybody's fine. But I'm angry because I'm choosing to focus on these things.
What if I like to be angry like that all the time?
Like that's like part of like identity?
Yeah. I'm just kidding.
Well, I've wondered about that for my comedy.
I mean, I did walk in here and I was bitching about work right when I came in.
I've had those weird thoughts about like not wanting to do things because it's going to mess up my identity. But then like when I've done them, I'm like, no, I'm still me. Still fine. I'm just like a little more chill about certain things, which is nice. But I'm lucky. Like I don't have that addictive gene. So like I have tried a variety of drugs and never worried about like addiction. Like I just don't. I'm very pragmatic, I guess. I'm not going to do it if I have things to do or I'm around the kids or those kind of things. But it's like, like weed I do the most just because it does help me sleep. And if I'm bouncing around with time zones and I do an edible, 9 o'clock at night, I am going to sleep so much better. I'm going to wake up so much more refreshed the next morning and have a more productive day. So to me, it's just like a good practical decision as opposed to like, I'm not just like, wake and baking and just
that would
blowing
be
off my day.
okay if you weren't using that as a gateway drug to get banged out and do
That's the hope.
needles. That's the hope. I keep
I've been-
taking this edible.
I've been taking
and
the edibles
it's not
forever,
working.
and I've yet to be butt fucked in an alley with a heroin needle. I keep trying.
Keep trying.
Where's this magical alley?
What is it? Gator and the Boys or whatever it is? Yeah.
The old soup kitchen.
The old soup kitchen.
Dirty Mike and
the Boys.
Dirty
There
Mike
we
and the
go.
boys. Yeah, we were talking about we just need to make that into a t-shirt because we put a 20 millimeter Canon on top of a Prius. And I just want to make a t-shirt with that on it and it just says soup kitchen on it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, that needs to be a shirt. We've been talking about that forever. I don't know why it's not a shirt. We put a 20 millimeter like gun, like a cannon on a Prius. Yeah.
Does it actually work?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. How does the Prius handle like the recoil just because they're so light?
It's reinforced like rebar all through it as like we built like a roll cage on it to support it. I mean, Richard Ryan did the build out, but he's got another project we can't talk about coming up here soon that is going to blow people's minds.
I love that you guys like have fun with it and just like to make these crazy videos and stuff. And when you're talking about the apparel, just to like plug you guys, I'm seeing more and more people wearing the Black Rifle around Coeur d'Alene, and you guys are killing it. Like, but I love that you guys aren't just focusing on like one thing. Like you got the coffee, but then you also have the cool apparel, and you're making the cool videos. It's just fun to watch. I've always appreciated like before comedy, good entrepreneurship, and it's come up in my comedy a lot. Like I have very little tolerance for like poor customer service and just like bad bureaucracy. It's why I get so angry if like it's weird at the DMV or different things or weird in some business. I just get, and so when I see somebody running things so well and taking care of every aspect, I'm just like, man, good for you guys. Like it's just, it's cool to see like the hard work and the dedication and the vision and fun and everything wrapped into it.
I feel like sometimes people give us a little more credit because we really just do like what we want and we want to have fun because it's like, for me, why would I want to be an owner in a business where people don't enjoy coming to work? It's not a cool, fun culture. I mean, that's the whole purpose of life. It's like, what's the end state? To like make money? Okay, I guess, but not like having a fun journey and building a rad team and enjoying work and being irreverent too. And like having a sense of humor. Like, I think that's what has made the brand so impactful for a lot of people because we just don't give a fuck. We do what we want. And we're very thankful that people subscribe to that mentality and support us because it lets us do dumb shit like this and talk on a podcast. And
And people need to see that, I think we are kind of our fallback is like this leadership style of lead by example, right? And like people need to see other human beings out there that they're making a living and they're having an enjoyable monetary gain through doing whatever the fuck they want and having fun
it's
along
inspiring.
the way. Yeah.
And then you guys, I'm sure you already have, but I mean, we get these messages, similar ethos over at like, Time Suck and, Bad Magic, our little production studio. But it does inspire. You get emails of like, hey, listening to you guys last couple of years inspired me to take a chance and start my own, open up a barber shop or, whatever it happens to be, woodworking shop, these things, and like pursue it and have fun and follow it. It's cool. It's like, it's infectious.
I think there's like this weird like baseline society, and it's like you build your roots out, and you go to college, some people, and then they get married, they get their house, and then they slowly like divest themselves from their goals and their aspirations. And then they get to such a point where they're anchored down by what they've created in their life that the opportunity to go take a risk becomes drastically more complicated because you maybe have a family and you're married, you got like a 2 cars that you're paying on. Like the risks absorbed in those like calculated like decisions to like maybe go chase your dreams become way harder. And and that's fine however people's lives turn out. I just wish more people, and hopefully we can be a vessel for people to be inspired, is like to actually do what the fuck you want to do in life. Like there's no dress rehearsal in this motherfucker. Like you get one shot. And that's, if you believe in an afterlife, that's great. But in this consciousness as a human being, you got one. And it's easy to like read that on a Pinterest comment. It's easy to like say that, but to live it, it's fucking hard. And it takes like an understanding every single day to like recalculate yourself and go, man, I just want to enjoy today, spread positivity, spread love, make people laugh, and like do epic shit. Because like my biggest fear and has been in life is like that deathbed thing. And I look back and go, fuck, man, I was a pussy. I was a pussy. I didn't take a risk, And then the people that go, well, I want to live forever, and jumping out of planes crazy. For me, it's like, no, like I'm willing to take that calculated risk and trust myself, and let's go enjoy it. Right. Then you have such a better perspective that promotes your internal happiness because you've seen life, you've experienced it, rather than just kind of coast through it.
And even if like, like in those things, I totally agree. And it's like, and if, somebody falling out of the plane, then like, the parachute didn't open. Well, maybe they lived a lot more life in their 40 years than the other person who didn't take any risk and died at 80. It's like I think about, like, I feel bad. I feel like lately in my acts of like that, I've been trashing my mom. I love my mom, but she is like, she doesn't live like that. And so I've seen this example of somebody who doesn't take any risks and is worried, and like, she's not happy. Right. And so it's like, and she's always waiting for the other shoe to drop and always like worried. And I'm like, Mom, yeah, it is going to drop. We're all going to die. Like all those things that you worry about are going to happen. And you having worried about them your whole life isn't going to have made the pain any less or whatever like that. So why not just like, don't think about it. You can't control it. So go enjoy your life and don't worry about what your neighbors think or those kind of things. And then when those things happen, they're going to happen. But at least in between those things, like you're living the life that, you want to live. Because I do look at like, if you're just like, what is the goal? What is the goal of life? And it's like, I think just, to enjoy it. Like you said, you get one ride.
Pursuit of happiness, man.
My 2 ones are, my whole point of living is laugh and come. pretty solid baseline.
Live, laugh, come.
That's solid. Yeah.
Dude, I had one of those moments after we came back from the Alaskan bear hunt, and like, we're on these tiny little puddle jumpers and like it's a little sketch, but I was like, you know what? Like if this thing went down, like I'm all right. Like, I fucking lived it and I'm okay with all that. Like there's enough for a few chapters of a book. And like as a byproduct of that process, I was like, it kind of like felt freeing to just like go and freestyle life after that. Like you feel like you already did a lot and move forward and just like just ride that wave.
I think that's like the whole thing, right? You can't let fear drive your ship. Like whichever way you want to steer it, do that. But like, I think too many people let fear and trepidation drive their ship. And that's a fucking quick dirt nap to depression.
Absolutely.
Straight up. And I've fell into that multiple times in my life. And I like
most people do.
Shake it off and be like, whoa, okay. Like, I don't know how I just got here, but I'm here. And it's like, you got to reset and just, I mean, I've upped and moved multiple times in my life just to get out of a toxic environment. Like I hate everything, my job, the person I'm with, where I live. I'm like, fuck it. I got a rucksack and a positive attitude. Like I'm just, I'm going. We'll see where the road takes me.
That's odd. We're with tattoos here. There's one I've been meaning to get forever, and I just got to like talk to Will or get the design figured out. But I've always loved this quote. Well, it's actually a Rage Against the Machine lyric, but fear is your only God. And I've thought about that like so many times in my life. And I want to use it for a reminder for myself too, you know, just to like, when I'm getting worried about taking a risk or, you know, I don't want to do this and I don't even understand why I don't want to do it. Maybe there's other voices in my head. And it's like, why am I letting, you know, like fear, irrational fear rule my life? Because I've seen so many people live their lives that way. They just live their whole life just afraid and worried and ugh.
As long as you're ready for your wife to call that a basic bitch tattoo, even though you're covering this one up, it's okay. I have happiness as a warm gun on my arm. So
well, I'm gonna weave it into. Yeah, I know.
I like it. That's a really good idea. I'm just messing with you.
Oh yeah, no, I want to weave it into. There's this graphic novel I like called Preacher. It's Garth Ennis, and it's just like this crazy, crazy story. But he has like this God character who comes to Earth and does all this crazy hedonistic shit. But just the illustration, just like, you know, like white eyes and kind of like the long flowing hair. I just pictured some like that face woven into a fear is your only God thing would be fun. But I've been thinking about that for a decade. I gotta figure it out.
Good thing you got a good tattoo artist and you just explained it to him on the show.
Talking to Will about yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just be ready for that onslaught from the wife. Like, oh, what are you, 18? You got a fucking Rage Against the Tattoo quote on your arm.
Right.
Neato.
I like that Rage Against the Tattoo.
I like them. I'm lucky where my wife is, I mean, as you know, I was married before and like my wife now is, and my first wife is she's a good person. We're just not truly the cliche of like not right for each other.
Right.
But she is very much an inside the box person and it's worked out very well for her. She has a good corporate job. She's climbed up this ladder, worked at the same company the whole time since she's been in college. And like this very kind of linear, that's what she wanted. Where the people I dated before were a little more reckless and stuff. But then I had this like, kind of like mom, what a parental voice in my head of like, that's not the proper person. And that's not, even though I wasn't that person. And my wife now, like she's a little nuts in some ways like me. And we both have a very much of like an outside the box, like tattoos, whatever. She's just like, whatever, that makes you happy. Cool. You know, like, so I was joking with some friend, I've just never had time, whatever like that, to like get into like motorcycles or whatever. But I think this next summer, I'm going to finally get one just to go ride around locally and stuff like that. And a lot of people, I feel like at this stage in life, well, I've heard just friends be like, well, I had one, but my wife wouldn't. Like, my wife's not like that at all. It's so great.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, whatever. That makes you happy. Fucking whatever.
Yeah, dude, that's such a good point. Because I saw this thing on social media not too long ago, and it was a photo of Clint Eastwood.
Oh, yeah.
And like that motherfucker is still directing films at 91 years old. And I was like,
Is he 91?
That's so inspirational to me to be like so far away from that age and be like, that motherfucker is still getting after it every single day and making movies. Like it tees you up. Because I think
good movies.
Like a lot of us coming from the military, like we didn't think we were gonna exist.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
You thought you were gonna fucking die, and that's just the way it is. So it's almost like you got a wall up to a lot of the future and what you could potentially be capable of, and you got to fucking punch through that a lot of times. And like seeing examples like that where this dude's like a tremendous career, but he's still working his ass off. Like I love seeing shit like that.
Do you find that freeing then now if you had that? Because I mean, I was not in the military. It's like I admire people who were very much, but like not having that personally. If you had that mentality for a while when you're younger and then you're home, you're out, does it feel kind of in a sense like bonus time?
Yeah,
it does and it doesn't. Yeah.
If you find the perspective, I mean, I've talked a decent amount over the years about transition and stuff because that was one of the hardest times of my life. But I remember that I got out of Ranger Battalion in the quad and, you know, I ETS, meaning I got out of the military. My platoon went to do a training exercise. I remember standing there and I was like, okay, I'm not dead and I'm out of the Army. And I had no plan.
Like what now?
Because like to Logan's point, it was just like the expectation is that you're gonna like kick the bucket, and then you have that weird psychological moment where you're like, I'm not dead. What do I do? And I think it's just a sense of finding purpose and like drive and figuring out what you want to do, and that takes a lot of trial and error. I don't think that there's any, you know, quick fix or help book that says this is what you should do with your life. And if people say that, that's what they want, their version of their life for you, and not your own personal version. And it takes time, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so it's hard to get upset sometimes when you like really recalculate and go, yeah, I probably should have been fucking dead lots of times. And I get to sit here and drink coffee and bullshit with some friends. Pretty epic moment.
Yeah.
And I think that almost gets ingrained to a point. Like if you think, you know, any type of routine or habit, you know, that gets ingrained in you as a human, if you think like, I'm not going to be here, I'm not going to be here. Like your brain is going to think that way naturally, and you're not even really going to recognize it, even though you're no longer in a threatening environment.
Right.
And so you have to like decondition your own brain to be able to like no, you have to plan for the future and ask yourself what you want to do on a regular basis, and then actively like go through this trial and error process to fucking figure that out.
Isn't that interesting how there is like such a different path for every person, and like what kind of unlocked when I was talking earlier about like starting Time Suck and all that. Another thing I did, and I don't even had the book recommended to me. I've never been like a self-help kind of book guy. Just for whatever reason, they just didn't speak to me. But I found this book, and it was actually written by another comic, Chris Hardwick, The Nerdist Way. Never a big popular book, but it was applying video game strategy to your life.
Interesting.
And I found it fascinating, and it spoke to me because I did a ton of gaming growing up.
Yeah.
And basically it was speaking to nerds, and I was kind of a nerd in some ways, growing up, still am in some ways for sure. And it was like these exercises you work through to like work through these roadblocks. Like, do you have this like voice of doubt in your brain? Do you have like this concern that people are going to like be like, I told you so when things don't work out? Like all these things. What is the worst case scenario? And it was like, write it out, you know, a lot of kind of stuff. And then the main lesson was, there's a lot of people who are very good at video games, and they know how to level up. They can beat the bosses. They can get to the end. They can set all these high scores, but they struggle with like regular life. And it was like, what if you took the same mentality you applied towards, you know, marching through these levels and applied that to your life? And it gave me a little bit detachment.
Interesting.
And I started looking at marketing and things for Time Suck like a video game, and just like and for whatever reason, that's what I needed. It wouldn't work for everybody, but it helped me tremendously. I depersonalized all of it.
Yeah.
You know, and I just looked at it like, I'm trying to set a high score. I'm trying to market this because I want the high score and like how many, you know, click-throughs I can get on this. Playing with this ad and trying to read it so I can hear from the ad and see if I can get the top score, you know, where I get like the best kind of, I'm trying to make this like the most memorable joke. But it's like, Yeah,
I've kind of heard that video game analogy. I mean, it is funny. It's like you're trying to get the coin and rescue the princess in life a little bit. But yeah, I agree with that, especially like if you're really good at one game and there's a sense of comfortability because you know you're better than peers. So you continually go back to that game and that's your one version of success, but you never want to play a different game because it's challenging and new.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of correlation between that and life in the sense of like we become comfortable with the things that we're decent and in our peer group with.
Yeah.
And then stepping outside of that box and being like the dumbest guy in the room or the worst at something, it's such a impact on your ego that you have to get past. Like it's okay to be fucking stupid and not know sometimes. That's what knowledge is. Like you have to, like at some point you were bad at everything. When you came out as a little fuckhead out of your mom's vagina and you're like, what's up world bitches? Like you sucked at everything. You couldn't even put a sentence together and you shit yourself. So you learned how to not pee yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's been progression since day one. And I think people get stuck in that monotonous, mundane lifestyle. And if that's what you want, that's great. Like if you want to climb that corporate job,
if it
climb
makes
the
you
ladder,
happy.
go for it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
for the people that want to do it, fucking switch levels, switch games.
Yeah, there is that. What is that cliche or quote like, get comfortable with being uncomfortable?
Yeah.
It's true though.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Because then the more you do it and the more new things, then pretty soon that becomes your new normal, where you're just used to kind of flailing around, but then you know based on all the prior examples that you will figure it out. And then like your confidence grows. Yeah.
And I think there's ways to condition that, honestly, because I've fell into that sometimes. It's just like, if you try to do one thing, even if it's a small thing every day that kind of makes you uncomfortable, and that could be as simple as like learning an instrument, right? And people like, I hear it all the time. I want to learn guitar. I've always wanted to learn guitar. And I'm like, it sucks. Trust me.
Yeah.
To learn how to play guitar sucks. You have to allocate 15 minutes and you're going to get pissed off. You're going to get frustrated. Your fingers are going to hit. Your freaking girlfriend or wife's going to be like, shut up, you suck. Like play Bon Jovi. You're like, I can't even play Green Day.
Right.
But like, shit like that makes you uncomfortable and gets you out of your comfort zone is, I think, one of the most freeing aspects of life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like you got to acknowledge that point that you're going to reach that precipice where you're like, so everything clicks in it, right? Like we've been doing a bunch of flying in the wind tunnel lately, and like, oh my God, it's so rewarding because it hits on a few different factors. Like it's a cool activity.
Yeah.
You get to learn your body in unique different ways, you know, and you're working through this, but like you get this awesome feeling afterward. And then like that stuff stacks on top of each other to where you're like, oh, I want to do a new skill and I want to do a new skill. So yeah, like conditioning yourself to like just pursue this new shit.
Once you bridge that frustration, that's where the positive attributes, because you feel a sense of like purpose and success. Like when you go back in the wind tunnel, to use his reference, when you get in there your third time, you're like, oh, I'm starting to get the hang of this. And then you watch video of your first time and you're fucking hitting the glass in there and the guy's trying to hold you. Then all of a sudden you're like, oh, dude, I'm doing like 360s and then going up and down. You see that progression and it's something to hang your hat on. Like, I didn't know how to do this a month ago.
Right.
And I made the time instead of sitting on my couch and watching Netflix.
No, that's awesome. Just, I wish more people would do that. Just, and just be, wish more people would be okay with like, yeah, you're gonna look like an idiot at first. And that is okay. You know, like, I feel like so many people's kind of, they've allowed themselves to have fragile egos. And then that ego just holds them back from so much stuff and then just gets more fragile, you know, over time. And it's like, oh man, break out of that box and you'll be so glad you did.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's an imaginary jury that's fucking judging you about whether or not you can fucking learn this task. We're like, nobody fucking cares about you. Just fucking figure it out.
That's the thing too. We get in our heads. We're like, you know, like that, like we're the star of our own movie, all of us. Yeah. But it's like, no, we're not really though. Because like the other actors don't give a fuck about your movie. You know, like they actually do not care.
Well, it's like the person that doesn't want to go to the gym because they're like, well, I don't want people to make fun of me because I can't lift heavy weights.
No one's going to do that.
That meathead. Go lift your 1 pound on the tricep extension. Like, get it, girl, dude. Like, send it, bro. Like, fucking do it, man.
And it's weird all these imaginary things people build up. Where it's like, I've been to like, you know, so many gyms like over the years. It's like, I've never seen that. I've never seen someone come in and then everybody like, huh, look at this weak piece of shit.
Right?
Yeah.
Gather around.
Oh, you can't bench 225?
Look at him. He's wearing the gray sweatpants, isn't it? His ass is all sweaty. Look at this guy.
Right. Exactly.
Well, the only person I might judge would be the old gentleman that winks at me in the sauna in gyms. You know, like, it's his thing. I get it. I have high cheekbones and light eyes. Like, I don't fault him.
Yeah, is that a thing when you get older where you're just like, I'm going to be fucking naked in public spaces?
Dude, just swinging nuts.
Hey, it's Wayne Gretzky. Yes. You're a hockey guy. You miss every shot you don't take. So if you take 10 shots on a twink, you might get one of them. Like, I'm just saying.
There was this YMCA in Santa Monica where I would work out. And it was like, I mean, it was not sexual, but it was just these old guys talking shop or whatever. But there was like 10 of them. And they would just hang out in the locker room, just sagging nuts and just, you know.
And why is it always, it's always just like the
very
chest day today was pretty good, right, Brad? Oh, the glutes got worked. You're like, man, okay. Hey, again, each their own, but I don't think I'll be in that circle.
Dude, when I was out in LA a couple years ago before COVID hit, and I was super hungover. My buddy's like, hey, you got to go check out this Korean spa.
Oh, yeah.
Go out.
Every good story starts that way.
And, just hit the sauna, hit the ice bath. You'll feel way better. I was like, all right, go. And I went to this Korean spot, and there's a little section in this where like you just go and take naked naps. And there's just like a bunch of people just like sleeping, napping in there naked. And I was like, that's so strange.
My friend was just telling me about Korean spas, and he was saying like they scrub you down, and like there's these stations, a certain kind you can get. And he said that if you have a bunch of tattoos, that like in certain traditional kind of like these spas, they'll leave. Like they don't want you. It's like some weird taboo thing. Have you heard that, Will, too?
Yes. It was big over there just because they...
Because more Japan, maybe the Yakuza or something?
Yes, it's all started with that. So it just has that stigma of only criminals have tattoos.
Only criminals have tattoos.
A few years ago, Japan finally went legal with tattoos. It's been that long. It's been illegal for this entire long for like 300-400 years or some shit. It's ridiculous.
That's crazy, yeah.
I mean, I did date a girl once, and her mother said, I can't believe you'd date someone with that type of character. And we're like, what? Because I had tattoos.
Yeah.
Coming out of like a special operations unit where everybody's fucking tattooed because their job was to shoot bad people in the face. But hey, whatever.
That's a weird thing, like getting out of your box. I'm amazed by how many people just don't examine their opinions. Like they just say shit. And they don't know what it means.
Well, don't judge me. That's been this whole podcast to me. I've said a lot of shit. Most of it's not accurate.
But I have like a lot of like my family. But I'll be like, yeah, but why do you think that? And there's literally no answer. I don't know. Well, then why do you say it? Why do you say it? Because my mom said, I actually have a tattoo on my ribs that says, I love my mother. She hates tattoos. And I got it just to show her. Because she hates
that.
them.
My mom doesn't like tattoos. Bless her. I love my mom. We have a phenomenal relationship.
Yeah.
She's some of my favorite, but like,
my mom thinks I look like an ex-con.
Yeah.
Yep. That's her take on me now. She's like, you look like you just got out of prison. I'm like, what?
You're not even that tattooed.
I know.
You got
exactly.
you got like traditional style too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but in her mind, like any of them. Like you get a couple and it's like, well, all right, well, now you're the thug. It's like, where does that even come from?
My mom gave me shit for years, and it's my profession.
right.
Will said his mom gave him shit for years, but it's his profession. It's funny.
Like 10 years deep, and then finally she comes and sees my business, my home, and sees how I'm living, and she's like, I think you're gonna be okay. I'm like, I'm a decade in now, but thanks for the support, Mom.
Oh my God. My mom, same thing as far as the support. She didn't understand, like we grew up, again, tiny town. And for whatever reason, another just kind of like not really examined thing to say, it was doctor or lawyer. Those at some point in her life, those were the two professions that were the most honorable professions. And if my son could be, and I did like,
is your mom Asian?
No, but she like, but she, that like I did well in school, and she put this expectation in her mind in grade school of like, Danny's going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And then so disappointed when I like stopped going to college after like, bachelor's in psychology and worked at a gym for a little bit and just tried to figure things out. And then when I went into comedy, like not happy. And then it took she tried to talk me out of doing stand-up. I mean, she was even like 12, 13 years in. She was like, so how much longer are you going to be doing this? You can go back to law school. I'm like, I never wanted to go to law school.
Right.
Like,
Well, I think a lot of that is like, is the era, right? Because historically, especially my parents, or specifically my dad's older, he's almost 80. Yeah. And I think growing up, like that, there wasn't like the internet, for instance, and there wasn't the opportunity to kind of succeed in a really fast way. I mean, to build a business back then required so much capital or innovation. Right. Whereas now it's like everybody and their mother on Instagram is an influencer. Yeah. And like, whether you like it or not, the bitch shaking her ass on TikTok probably makes more money than both of us.
Right, right.
She's making $80,000 a month on OnlyFans. And it's like, at what point can you be discreditory towards that if success is based solely on monetary advancements? Well, then they're succeeding more than us. So it's like, how do you discredit the process, right? They're hustling. Now, whether or not you morally or ethically agree with that's completely different.
Sure, but financially,
that shit didn't exist back in the day.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing when I started business, it was kind of like, my dad used to be like, are you still like selling a coffee bag or something? It took me to show him like our facility like that. We had 30 employees like, wait, so like people buy your coffee? I'm like, okay. It took a while to get the gears rolling in his head as far as like, no, especially with phones, like I'm just ranting, but he's like, you're always in your fucking phone. It took me probably 10 years to be like, Dad, it's a smartphone.
Yeah, I'm doing work.
Computer. Right. And then once that clicked of like, oh no, I do emails and text and business and applications. Like this is my mobile computer. Like,
right.
Yeah, get back to your point, Dan. Like people just get imprinted with something, and they don't even know why. They don't know, and then they just get stuck with that. And that's why marketing works a lot of times and propaganda is because they're just like that's the first initial impression they get. My mom was the same way with tattoos, and then you're not going to sin on your body, are you? I'm like, what? What are you even talking about?
You sin on what?
On my body.
The sin,
sin on your body.
Yeah, and then I come back from deployment one time and she's got tattoos. I'm like, what is this? What are you doing? And it was the same way with guns. Like my mom didn't want them anywhere in the house. And then like I take her shooting and she goes all Macklemore on me. She's like, this is fucking awesome. I'm like, I know.
This is fucking awesome. It's like, take me to the gun shop, Hot Logie.
Yeah, I wonder if
buy me a gat. Mama wants a gat.
Mama wants a gat.
I want a revolver, 357 stub nose. Like, God, Mom, you're kind of gangster.
Yeah, it just gets back to like people fear what they don't know. And it's like before you fear something, like get into it. Like figure it out.
That's right, yeah.
Because they can fucking own your whole entire existence.
Let's make motivational shirts that just say, go try sushi. Right?
Right.
Because if I fucking hear someone say they hate sushi and they've never tried it,
I'm
going to
delicious.
Dream about bitch slapping you. I won't do it, but I'll dream about it. Affection, correction. You get the correction side. Straight up.
Yeah, that was my grandparents. I remember like with the sushi, they found out like we ate sushi and they just couldn't get out of their head of like raw fish.
Yeah.
Ugh. Raw fish. It's like, no, I'm not just go getting a fucking trout. Creek.
Hey, Mama, pull this catfish out of the sewer line. You want some fucking sushi?
Yeah.
It works that way. Well, shit. This episode should maybe be called Serial Killers, Drugs, and Motivational Sushi.
Yeah.
I think it's a good like.
We really ran the gamut on a lot of things.
Soup kitchen t-shirts.
Soup kitchen t-shirts, yeah.
Basement mattresses.
Basement. Well, Dan, so I know we've talked about it a little bit, but what are your podcasts?
Oh, yeah.
Like where and people can check you out on your show? Like where can people find you directly?
If they just Google Dan Cummins, they can find like the tour dates. You know,
Cummins.
Yeah, Cummins for the tour dates, and then the podcast or Time Suck for the history, true crime, cults, that kind of thing. You know, one episode a week, and then Scared to Death is campfire, paranormal horror stories, and then Is We Dumb is just me and my friend Joe just being outrageous, like just really kind of over the top humor.
Dude, are you ever not on a microphone?
I know it is weird to have it become like second nature, where it's like it is kind of it's nice in a way, like having done it for so long that I see it with some people who haven't done much podcasting, stand up, performing, whatever. They freeze up and they very much change when they get on mic, and I actually feel like I'm the most me, like when I'm talking or something like that. Like I'm very honest, sharing my opinions. Where like sometimes in regular life, I'm like, just save it in your head. Like nobody wants to hear it. Like I just keep it in my head. And then whenever I'm in a mic, I'm like, I get to be myself. And no, it's a lot of recordings, but it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
It is
it's
what
fun. You get to hang out and meet new people. That's why I love podcasting, because you're an interesting guy and have a cool perspective on life. And
thanks. And
as a bad magician.
Yeah, bad magician.
I always tell people to check out the Black Plague Time Suck quiz. I feel like it's relevant at the moment.
The Black Plague Time Suck.
It's fucking hilarious. And the Ed Kemper one, just to throw you in the deep end.
Oh, dude, Ed Kemper.
Yeah,
Jesus,
it's a good
man.
one. It's a great one.
Cool.
Yeah, if you can handle a little, fucking your mom's neck, then you can handle Ed Kemper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Dude.
One way to end the show. And selfishly, I'd like to end the show with a dad joke for you.
Okay.
So Dan, thanks for Cummins on the show.
you
So
bet.
bad. It was so bad, but I had to do it. Just had to cringe it at the end, dude.
No, thank you. And big fan, truly. Like, much success, continued success for what you guys are doing and the philanthropy that you guys do. I always stumble on that word. I'm like, is that how I pronounce it? But yeah, the philanthropic, work you guys do is super admirable. And the way you, take care of other veterans and the success you're having, I fucking love it. So I love watching you guys continue to soar.
Man.
Yeah.
And we'd love to have you back on at some point. So thanks for coming on the Black Rifle Podcast.
And let me know, man, if you ever want me to, you don't need it, but any promo you ever want me to do, you just fucking tell me.
No, I think we need to have you write. So we've been doing these like fake commercial pitches, concepts. I'll have to show you the one that's running soon. But I think if you would write one and we'll recreate it.
Oh my God, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Yeah, we'll show you some weird shit.
No basement mattresses.
Yeah.
We don't have to go that dark.
Yeah.
You want to go to the Whipple route?
Whipple. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and we'll catch you around.
Yeah, and hey, hold on.
Oh God, still going.
Will XX.
Yes.
Instagram.com.
Will_XX.
This is looking
It's
amazing.
coming to Texas soon, people. San Antonio.
Yes.
We love
San Antonio, Austin area. Look him up on Instagram. He'll be moving soon. Shoot him a DM. Is that okay, Will? If you need some tattoo work, he's tattooed all of us.
He's a true artist.
So cool. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
That concludes today's training. Any questions?